living in the present. So often our mind is either in the past, focused on what didn't work out, who did us wrong, mistakes we've made, or it's in the future, thinking about our goals, worried about our finances. What if my health doesn't improve? The problem with being in the past or being in the future is you will miss the present. David said, "This is the day the Lord has made." Today is a gift from God. Are you fully engaged, making the most of each moment, loving your family, appreciating the simple things in life? Or are you in yesterday? Are you in tomorrow? The reason some relationships are not healthy is you came home from work, but you didn't really show up. Your mind was somewhere else. You played with your child, but you were in tomorrow, thinking about how you were going to accomplish that goal. Or you went to the office, your body was there, but your mind was in yesterday, thinking about what you should have done better. If you're going to be fulfilled, you have to show up for life. You have to be there when you get there. Not show up and be in the future, worried about how it's going to work out. Not show up and be in the past, live in regrets, dwelling on your disappointments. Come into today. Yes, it's good to have goals. I'm all for having vision, but you can't be so focused on what's next that you miss what you have right now. I know people that lost what they had going after what they wanted. They were so intent on reaching their goal, doing great things, that they took their family for granted. They came home, but they weren't there. They were distracted, thinking about what was next, planning for the future. They never came into the present. Victoria and I used to travel to India with my father. We had been married for a couple of years, and on this particular trip, on the way home, we were going to stop in Paris. My father was going to minister there for a few days, and we were so excited. Our first time being in Paris together. Before we left home, we put an offer in for a house that we really wanted to buy. We had sold our townhome and we found this place that we loved. Had a nice yard and big trees, and the house was so light and open, it was perfect. When we arrived in Paris, the first thing we did was call our realtor and ask if she had heard anything. She said nothing. The next morning, we woke up, called the realtor. Any news? Still nothing. During the day, we would go out and look at sites. The whole time, we were talking about that house, believing we were going to get it. As we walked the streets of Paris, we took pictures of things that we'd like to do to our new house. Here's a front we could put on it. Here's how we could do the landscaping. We were in Paris, but we weren't really there. Our mind was somewhere else. We were in the future, all the while missing the present. We could have been making the most of that moment, enjoying the sights, taking in that beautiful city. But because we were so focused on what we wanted, we missed what we had. If I could go back now, I'd say, Joel, enjoy where you are. Be present. At the right time, the doors will open. The opportunities will come. But while you're waiting, stay in the now.
And so, this is why we are here, and this is the meaning of retreat. It's a retreat from yourself in order to find what the Buddhists would call the no self, or what other teachings would call the deeper self, or the Atman, or your Buddha nature, or the Christ within, whatever term you want to use to point to it. And that's why we're here. So all the external things here are helpful. It's easier here to connect with the depths of who you are and realize the depths of who you are. Of course, when you leave here, then you get challenged again. It's not that you don't get challenged here too, and especially if you're still very much identified with the mind, you find many challenges wherever you go. This isn't right. Don't like that. He doesn't look very spiritual to me. Or the opposite, all these people are so much more spiritual than me. Do they know that I'm not spiritual? So the practice is to voluntarily, as much as possible, relinquish identification with the thinking mind and your usual self. And what very much helps with that is just as much as you can. Don't walk around as a heavy personality and person with it. No, walk around as a light, as a field of conscious perception, and like a little child, it goes and look at everything. In other words, presence practice. Here, it's more easier than in your usual surroundings. Presence practice, present moment practice. There's a lot of nature here. I recommend taking walks in nature, looking at the trees, at the sky. There's a lake, the grass, the flowers, many, many lovely things. Be as present as you can and alert. And as you walk around from one building to another, from here to there, really perceive. That already is a liberation from the usual self. Because you're not thinking, you cannot really perceive your surroundings fully when your usual self is talking to you. And it's probably not talking about this present moment, it's talking about what you're going to encounter when you get back home. Or what happened last week. Or it's doubting that being here is actually a good thing. Or it's criticizing something that shouldn't really be here, but it's here. You don't want to, because that's not a retreat. You haven't really retreated. You've retreated on an external level, but you have not used this opportunity to retreat from your usual self, your usual mind.
Paying attention is being present, and it's a skill, just like golf or tennis. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. And you know when someone's present with you in your life because they're paying attention to you. And you know when they're not present with you because they're not paying attention to you. So now, what's the relevance of that? Well, there's an intelligence that's giving you life that's always present. And many people don't take the time to connect to it by being present, right? So if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and all of your attention is in the present moment, you got a lot of energy in the present moment. Now think about this. When I talk about being present, I'm saying that once you fall into the generous present moment, according to the quantum model of reality, all possibilities exist in the eternal now. So most people, they wake up in the morning, they come back to their senses. Your brain is a record of the past. It's an artifact. It's a circuits of everything you've learned and experienced to this moment. So people wake up in the morning and they think about their problems. Those problems are connected to certain people, certain things at certain times and places. The moment they start thinking about the problems, they're turning on the circuits from the past. They're memories. All those memories are connected to emotions because emotions are the end product of past experiences. So that problem has the feeling of disgust, frustration, anger, judgment, hatred. And if how you think and how you feel creates your state of being, and thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body, that person's entire state of being is in the familiar past. And when you're in the familiar past, you crave the predictable future. So then what happens next? They come back to their senses, they sit up, they check their cell phone, they do their WhatsApp, they do their Twitter, they do their text, they do Facebook, they take a picture of their feet, they post it on Facebook, they tweet something, they check one email, they check another email, they check the news, and now their entire brain is connected to everything known in their life. Then they stand up and they go through a series of routine behaviors. They use the toilet, they go to the kitchen, have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, they go in the shower, they wash themselves the same way, they put on the same clothes, they walk out to the kitchen, they eat cereal with the same spoon, facing the same direction, they drive to work the same way, they do the same things, see the same people, they push the same emotional buttons, and they do this every day. So now their body is programmed into a predictable future based on what they did in their past, and they lost their free will to a program. And so now, if If you're not getting up in the morning being defined by a vision of the future, then you'll be predictable in your life. You're left with the old memories of your past. So then, as I said, the stronger the emotion that you have some problem or person in your present reality, the more you're going to pay attention to that person or problem. And if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, all of your energy and your attention is going to all these different people and problems and places. And now, every one of those people and problems and places has a neurological network in your brain.
If we can change our perspective, how we think, it just changes about everything in our life. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And we're going to talk about perspective. We're going to talk about perspective about possessions today, which is a tremendous principle also that I'm going to share. But outside of sharing my faith, which I try to do every day and just love to do, outside of sharing my faith, if you and I sat down around the table, just the two of us, one-on-one, okay? Just a one-on-one conversation. And you would look at me and say, John, what is the thing that you would say to me that would best improve my life? I would talk to you about how you think, how I think, our perspective. In fact, I put in our lesson today some perspective principles that I just think are huge. And let me just give them to you real quick. Okay, you ready? Let's go. First of all, how we view things determines how we do things. That's just an incredible principle. Now, each one of these I could preach 30 minutes on, but they won't let me do that. But how I view things determines exactly. So if I view things in a perspective of wanting to serve with excellence, guess what I'll do? I'll serve with excellence. If I view things in a very kind of a average way, then I'll put average into that endeavor. So how I view things is how I do things. Let me give you another perspective principle that's just huge too, and that is what you see is who you will be. And we see things not as they are, we see things as we are. That's why two people can be in the same situation, same experience, same place, and see things completely different than anyone else. So what is before you isn't what you see, who you are is what you see. This third one is just amazing. Whenever I do conferences on how to create positive change in organizations or in people's lives, this is kind of a cornerstone of that thinking. And so let me give that to you. And that is that when we change the way we look at things, the things that we look at change. I mean, I'm always interested in people who say, you know what, gosh, John, I just want to change my spouse. Good luck. My name is John. I'm your friend. Let me tell you a better way to get on with that, and that is change the way that you see that your spouse. Then all of a sudden, everything begins to turn. These perspective principles I'm giving you, they'll just change your life. And I know that as I'm getting ready to teach on possessions, I know that you don't need it because you already have an awesome perspective. But aren't you glad I'm teaching this lesson for the person on your left today? Huh? Aren't you glad? Between you and me, I know that's why you brought them here today. So just look at them and say, this is good for you. Go ahead and tell them that. This is good for you. Now some of you are enjoying that way too much. I mean, some of you are saying, oh, this is my chance. I've been waiting for this for a long time. Let me tell you all about this. Okay. Let me give you one more perspective, just principle that's just huge, and that is what I believe about life determines how I perceive life, which determines what I receive from life.
If you're not paying attention to what I'm saying, would you know what I'm talking about? No. That's so with every aspect of life, isn't it? If you're not paying attention to it, you don't know what you're eating, you don't know what you're breathing, you don't know what's happening. Most people will not notice the fragrance of the flowers or anything, they're just walking through like rocks. Or let me say a bull, because they want to, a bull is worshipped in the stock market. It's an evolutionary fallback. If you walk like a bull or a bear, it's an evolutionary fallback. You evolved to be a human being, taking millions of years, now you don't want to fall back To be human means, what is unique about a human being is, we do the same things what the other animals do. It is just that all that the animal can do, we do the same things but we can do it consciously. That's a big difference. And doing anything consciously will not come if you don't have sufficient attention towards things that you do or things that you do not do. Especially things that you do not do, you must have absolute attention towards those, otherwise they'll creep into you. So this attention deficiency syndrome has happened because people's idea of education is information. Right now, the whole idea of human education system has become heaping you with information. The more information you heap upon on any mind, or let's say starting from childhood, the more he will develop aversion to attention. Because without knowing anything, information gives you a false feeling that you know everything. This has become a fashion now. Today if you're invited for a dinner party, you Google out information about the 100 billion galaxies, they've all been numbered and named and all that, okay? That 566BZ, that galaxy, you know, about that you know some information. You Google out, get these 2 sentences out and go to the dinner party. Whoever talks to you, they say, how are you? Hey, do you know about this galaxy which is a trillion light years away, which is a BB whatever? And you talk about it, everybody thinks you're smart. There's a whole problem with the world right now. We're considering information, we're mistaking information for intelligence. An entrepreneur or anybody who wants to navigate through any situation needs intelligence, not just information. Information may be useful on the side, but it is intelligence which will allow you to navigate through a particular situation in a unique way, not the way somebody else is doing. We are mistaking information for intelligence. Once you heap yourself with too much information, now attention is a serious problem. Once you have no attention, once you have no ability to hold your attention, you have lost your ability to access your intelligence also. You will just churn out the information from memory.
Because happiness does not ultimately derive from this world. This world is not designed to make you happy, it is designed to challenge you. And if you believe that this world is designed to make you happy, then you're going to get very angry because as the years pass in your life, you realize, why isn't my life working? Why is this reality seems to be always throwing obstacles in my path? The moment I say, oh, it's okay now, this problem has been solved, another one pops up from behind you. And so you have these areas of your life, the main areas being your physical health, your financial situation, your living situation, your professional situation, your relationship situation. And one of these areas usually develops problems. So you solve a problem in your financial area and then pops up a relationship problem. You solve the relationship problem, suddenly you have a health problem. It's interesting that you're constantly being challenged, and you might have noticed one of the greatest sources of challenges are human beings. Because humans are incredibly challenging. And although humans look to humans often for some ultimate fulfillment through other humans, more often what they find through other humans is that other humans turn out to be a source of suffering. And that is because you're stuck in the egoic mind, and the egoic mind has certain expectations of the world, which includes whatever you experience in this world, has certain expectations that the world cannot meet. But if you believe that the world should, then that is a delusional reality that you will be continuously unhappy. The world continues to challenge you, but you believe the world is here to make you happy. That's a terrible dilemma. So it means all your expectations are delusory. but you don't know it, and that creates an enormous amount of suffering, because then every challenge that you encounter in this world, and they come one after another, every challenge that you encounter in this world, you then, because of that underlying expectation that something is wrong when you're being challenged, every challenge is then turned into unhappiness. There's a big difference between a challenge and unhappiness. So when you have delusory expectations of the world, then the world will make you unhappy and not happy, but you continue to believe that something has gone fundamentally wrong in your life, because life does not leave you alone. But you want some peace, you want some, you want a sense of, I've arrived, this is it. And occasionally it comes, but it never lasts for very long. So that's the dilemma. The underlying state of ignorance, not knowing that the function of this world is to challenge you, because only by challenging you does it provide the necessary incentive to awaken you.
Whatever you're up against, whatever you're going through, this is only a test. All of us this morning are either coming out of a test, headed towards a test, or we're being tested right now. But the good news is, it's only a test.
The progress is in the process. And if you don't do it, he can't bless it. You got to throw everything. The misnomer is you have grossly underestimated what it takes to succeed. Want to be a doctor? Work that thing.
Time is short. What is your life? It's even a vapor that appeareth for a little time and then vanisheth away.
The saddest thing I have ever seen is a wasted opportunity. I've seen people misunderstand the opportunity, pollute it with arrogance or self-aggrandizement, and lose the opportunity.
You may not understand why it's taken so long, why it hasn't turned out the way you thought, why you're in a lonely season. But everything you've been through was to strengthen you, to develop you, to prepare you. God wouldn't have allowed it if it wasn't part of the process. Without it, you couldn't give birth to what's in you. Keep passing the test. Keep doing the right thing, then your time is coming. Your baby is on the way. What God promised, He will bring to pass.
Listen to me. You have been given an opportunity. You have been given an opportunity of a lifetime. And if you think you're going to blow up, if you think you're going to get to the next level by luck, you got another thing coming.
You're not going to go through life and get everything you want all the time. And you need to learn to be happy anyway. You need to trust God. If that's what God wants you to get, then He'll get it to you. And if it's not coming to you right now, then just be a happy camper anyway.
Opportunity comes in chaos. A chance to stand up. A chance to get it right. A chance to make a U-turn. It may not be for everybody. It is how you perceive the chaos, whether you determine it to be opposition or opportunity. The process, the little steps that make a mile. It is not the destination. It is the things you learn along the way. It is the people who beguiled you and tricked you that make you wiser. Wisdom is made out of the stupid things you did before you got it. Don't miss it. That process is invaluable to you getting there. Does that mean that you have to be my age before you get there? Absolutely not. But it does mean that you don't go from thinking a thought to producing an idea without pain. The gestation period is critical. Gestation creates formation.
By not being prepared, you make the choice of getting caught in some of life's unpleasant circumstances. Failures, personal losses. By not being prepared, it's your choice. Now here's the other side of it. By being prepared, you increase your chances of success. Some people tend to blame others for their mistakes. Concentrate on the work at hand and demand of yourself the discipline to stay focused. If you have a long list of things to get done within a day, do the toughest ones while your concentration is at its peak. Learn your body's rhythms and do the jobs that need the most concentration when you're able to do them best. Use your discipline to keep your mind in line. When you recognize the need to concentrate more, when you recognize this need, it will come easier and easier. Focused concentration can become a habit. Make your mind pay attention. Discipline yourself to be where you are. Work at work and play at play. Don't mix the two.
I know people do things that hurt you. Everything is not fair and everything is not just and everything's not right. Sometimes you've done the very best and you don't get selected and you don't get the opportunity and you haven't gotten recognized. You cannot afford to get bitter, because if you get bitter, you will never get better. You got to get that out of you. If you got to cough it up, if you got to throw it up, if you got to pray it up, you got to get it out of you. There's a curse on it. There's a curse. You got to get it out, get it out, get it out, get it out, get it out. He left you. He cheated on you, but get it out of you, get it out of you. So you go ahead.
When you look at over 33 million people have lost their job, this is unprecedented. There's trauma that's going on all across the country. It affects all of us. There are things that we can do and things that we must do to pick ourselves up. Success is not final, and failure is not fatal. We all have the challenge to search deep within ourselves to find our inner hunger, which is our power.
That's the character test. It's like, what do you do with messages of error? And that's a tricky issue. Okay, so here's a solution to that. Here's what not to do. I am a bad person. I got to see myself. I'm a bad person. I might as well just go jump off the bridge. It's like, no, that's not good, because what that means is that every time you try to learn something, you're going to make a mistake, because what do you know? So you're going to make mistakes. And if the rule is every time you make a mistake, you're going to go jump off the bridge, then that's not a useful problem-solving strategy. And so when you make a mistake, you don't get to beat yourself to death with a club. It's a bad strategy, and you'll have your internal tyrant in there who's perfectly happy about doing that. That's the overactive superego that Freud talked about. Maybe it came to you via a parent who was too authoritarian, or a grandparent, or maybe it's just you because you're disagreeable and neurotic or hyper-conscientious. You'll take yourself apart. Then the question is, well, what does that mean? Well, maybe you're not looking at the world right. Maybe your goals are wrong. Maybe you're not acting properly. If you take yourself and you put yourself in a new environment, new genes turn on in your nervous system. They encode for new proteins. You're full of biological potential that won't be realized unless you move yourself around in the world into different challenging circumstances, and that'll turn on different circuits. It's that by exposing yourself to different environments, you put different physiological demands on yourself all the way down to the genetic level, and that manifests new elements of you. Because you take yourself out of your dopey little village, and that's just the little bounded you that everyone knows and that isn't very expanded. And then you go somewhere dark and dangerous. Then while you do that, you have adventures, and they toughen you and pull more out of you, partly because you're becoming informed.
Now, my approach to my better future very early on in my career was to just go through the day with my fingers crossed. I sure hope things will change for the better. Then here's what I found out. They're not going to change. When you change, when you get better, it'll get better. Don't put it on someone else. Hope that someone else will change it for you. Take responsibility for yourself. You can't change the circumstances or the seasons or the wind. You can change whether or not you go for the skills, multiply your value by 2, 3, 5, 10. That you've got charge of. That you have control of. You don't have control of the constellations. Learn some new skills. You have control over that. And if you don't, that's your fault. You've got to take personal responsibility. You've got to be self-reliant. Nobody else can change your life, alter your ambitions, pave a golden road for you. It's up to you. Be responsible for yourself. Learn to reap the harvest without complaint. Take full responsibility for everything you do. Be responsible to yourself. It's your crop.
And so if your life isn't everything it could be, you could ask yourself, well, what would happen if you just stopped wasting the opportunities that are in front of you? You'd be, who knows how much more efficient? 10 times more efficient. If people stopped really trying just to make things worse, we have no idea how much better they would get just because of that. So there's this weird dynamic that's part of the existential system of ideas between human vulnerability, both of which are major causes of suffering, and the failure of individuals to adopt the responsibility that they know they should adopt. People have a conscience. It's this feeling or voice you have in your head just before you do something that you know is stupid, telling you that probably you shouldn't do that stupid thing. But you go ahead and do it anyways, and then, of course, exactly what the conscience told you was going to happen inevitably happens, so that you feel even stupider about it than you would if it happened by accident. I knew this was going to happen, and I went and did it anyways. And the funny thing, too, is that that conscience operates within people, and we really don't understand what the hell that is.
But I think some very positive signs are beginning to appear. I think we're starting to realize that we'd better remember what got us this far if we expect to go any farther. So I'm going to tell you where the word character comes from, and I'd hope it has as big an effect on you as it did on me. But first I want to just quickly mention the origins of another word that people often confuse with character, just to clarify the differences. That other word is charisma, and I think that it's often confused with character today. Charisma is derived from a Greek word meaning an ability to elicit favor in other people. It's a magnetic quality of personality that people respond to as if it were magic. Charisma is almost like a magic wand that confers power over others. But character has a very different origin. Character comes from a Greek word meaning chisel, or the mark left by a chisel. And of course a chisel is a sharp steel tool used for making a sculpture out of a hard or difficult material like granite or marble. And a chisel is also used for stripping away waste material from an object, stripping away stuff that might get in the way in order to get down to the essential thing, the thing that really matters. So in its origins, the word character isn't related to a word like charisma, which we've described as a kind of magic wand. Character isn't a magic wand, and I hope you'll remember that. You've got to chisel your character out of the raw material of yourself, just like a sculptor has to create a statue. The raw material is always there. Everything that happens to you, good or bad, is an opportunity for building your character. You may have noticed it already. In both its definition and its derivation, character doesn't refer to other people. It doesn't refer to having power over other people or getting other people to follow you or gaining favor with other people. Character is something that you have and that you are. You could be marooned on a desert island and your character would still be important. In fact, it would likely be very important in that situation. But charisma wouldn't do you any good at all. Charisma requires the presence of others, while character is all about you. Character is the person you are after you've chiseled and have gotten past all the unnecessary material to what's underneath. A really charismatic person can make people believe there's pie in the sky, or that the sky is going to fall tomorrow. one just as easily as the other. By creating these expectations, charismatic individuals can indeed energize and inspire others, or terrify and demotivate them, until the overblown scenarios are proven false and the charisma runs out. But a person of character doesn't need to be anyone's Pied Piper.
I believe in bliss of satisfaction. Have you ever bitten into like a great steak and went, oh my gosh, it's delicious? You ever had that happen, yes or no? Did it make you not want the next bite more? Or did you want it more? See, there's a part of your brain, there's serotonin in your brain. The more you celebrate your wins, you celebrate when you're here, you have fun along the way, it begins to train your brain, you want to go to the next level. But if you cheat yourself from the celebration, you cheat yourself from the joy, it's always just a grind. Eventually there's this thing called frying and burnout where your brain doesn't want to do it anymore because it's not pleasurable, it gets no dopamine hit, no serotonin hit, and it wants to stop. You have to be blissfully dissatisfied. I talk about this in one of my audios and my book. My wife's a great example of this. We're complete opposites. I'm running out of time. I'm a super aggressive achiever. My wife, I call my wife, she's easy happy, easy satisfied. If we were living in a log cabin in the middle of nowhere, but we could cuddle up all day long and kissy kissy, she'd be happy all day long. She wears jeans and t-shirts. She could care less about material things. She could not tell you within many decimal points how much money we have. I'm not even sure she knows, other than Bank of America, where any of the money is. Could care less about it. She just loves people, loves life. She's the daughter of a pastor, her brother's a pastor. She's just a happy person. And she's married to a complete psychopath. But my wife, we've been together for a long time, she's developed some, I love my wife, but I don't like her all the time. The longer, any of you that have been in a long-term marriage here, they start doing some crap, man, that you just drives you crazy. Anybody relate to that, yes or no? My wife has developed this very bizarre habit. I'm not sure how it started or where it started, but when she eats pleasurable food, she moans orgasmically. So we'll be eating lasagna at the house, kids at the table, and she just started this a few years ago, and she doesn't even know she's doing it. We'll be eating, how was school today? Great, say the prayer, and then, or like, I'm serious, or like she's eating a brownie. I'm like, that is so weird. Stop it in front of the kids. What is wrong with you? She's like, what am I doing? I'm like, I don't want to even tell you, but like, it's really uncomfortable. Stop it. She's like, it tastes so good. I'm like, babe, we got it. Stop. But she doesn't know she's doing it. So my son's birthday happens. We're at this restaurant, and she's hot. My wife's super hot, right? And I say that being married a long time, he's hot, dude. And so we literally walk into this place, and there's some dudes checking her out, and I'm Italian, and I was in a bad mood, and you shouldn't look at my wife more than about one time, right? So these guys look at me, and my kids know, now that I've become a public person, I've gotten better at this stuff, but like, you get to look at her once, maybe twice. You turn around with a whole table full of people, come slap the shit out of you, right? Excuse my language. So these guys are looking at her a little bit too long, and they're on the edge. They didn't know it, but they're about to get slapped. They didn't, you know what I'm talking about, guys, right? They didn't know it, but it was getting close. You do it again, I'm gonna smack you. Sure enough, we're at their table next to them. Her steak comes, takes the first bite. She goes, what, am I doing it? I'm like, yes, you're doing it. My daughter's like, Mom, you're doing it. Sure enough, a few minutes later, this is embarrassing as hell. I can't even go slap these guys. These dudes are literally losing their minds, right? So we leave the dinner, we get home, we're getting ready to do what married people do after a night out. She's in the bed, and I go, hey, you know what I'm gonna do? We'll go upstairs and grab a steak. And I'm throwing this thing in his bed with us, because I've never heard you make these kind of noises before. So we're throwing this steak in the mix, right? She's like, and she literally says to me, she goes, it's just so blissful. And I'm like, that's a training, because I'm dissatisfied and you're blissful. And I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of validity. You need to learn to be in bliss as you're dissatisfied. That bliss will cause you want to take next bite, next haul, next finance. At that same dinner, my daughter said to me, hey, Dad, my daughter's pretty, like she's like me. My son's a sweetie like his mom. My daughter goes, hey, Dad, what's up with the midlife crisis? She saw the video. I go, midlife crisis? What are you talking about? She goes, come on, social media, you're growing the beard out, the tight t-shirts, you're going through a midlife crisis. And I go, you know what? You're right. I am. Here's what you don't know. I was going through a young life crisis. When Daddy was 20 years old, I was going through a crisis to get to the next level at 21. I was going through a crisis when I was 28 to be better at 29. I was in a crisis when I was 35 to be a better version of me at 36. And guess what, boo? When Daddy's 55, I'll be in another crisis before I get to 56. And that's a fact. Anybody that knows me, if you want to adopt one of my personality traits, I'm in a crisis to get to the next level.
Talk to God often. Even if you're not perfect, just talk to Him every day. You don't have to be in the same faith I'm in, or you ain't got to call God the same thing I call Him. But listen to me, you do have to call Him, though.
The voice of truth says, do not be afraid. The voice of truth says, this is for my glory. Out of all the voices calling out to me, I will choose to listen and believe the voice of truth. And guys, I believe that's true in my life, and it's true in your life. That there's a lot of things that are calling out to you. There's shame that's calling out to you. There's not enough. There's insecurities. But I'm not as good as this person. But look at all the bad things I've done. But God, I can't get up there and speak, or I don't have a voice like Hillsong. What can I do? But then we remember the voice of truth. God's promises on my life. God's promises on your life. That I'm a child of God, a son of the King of the world, who will forever reign. I was created in love, by love, and for love. He has an amazing plan for my life. Those voices of truth would say, I'm here for a reason. I might not be enough, but I'm more than conquerors through Him that loved me. So when I know I'm going to get scrutinized, I know I'll either win or lose. I know I'll be a hero or the GOAT. I also know it doesn't matter, because the God of this universe, He formed me in my mom's womb, and He said, through me you're more than enough, and I love you no matter what. And I have a perfect plan for your life. In your life, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, are you going to show the people around you your confidence in the Lord? You see, they might see it on your best day. They might see it when you leave church. They might see it when you leave Passion. Dang, I'm so confident in the Lord. It's awesome. I just got to hear Hillsong Band. I got to hear Passion. I got to hear Louis. I can express my confidence in the Lord. What about your worst days? What about your Mondays? What about when you get cut? Oh, hey, wait, that happened to me over and over again. What about when they say you're not good enough to do what you want to do? What about when you can't find that right person that you want to spend the rest of your life with? Do you still express confidence in the Lord? Because when we really want to have an impact on the rest of the world, then we're going to still have the same confidence in the Lord on our worst day that we have on our best day. You know, it was easy for me when I won championships in this stadium to say, hey, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You know, it's really hard when you get cut or you get traded or they say you're not good enough to say, you know what? I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Because I'm going to still express my confidence in Him. Because a few verses later in verse number 13, we learn, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now, that doesn't mean that you can accomplish anything you want. If you're 5'5", you're probably not going to be in the NBA. But it does mean wherever God puts you, wherever you're at in life, He's going to give you the strength through Him to handle it, to conquer it, because you are more than conquerors through Him that loved you. So you might think, I'm in a tough time. I don't know how I'm going to get through, but I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and I'm going to express my confidence in Him. No matter if I just won the championship or I'm in the basement and I'm tied up and I don't know how much longer I have to live.